So, when it comes to real estate investing, there's a lot of fancy ratios and formulas that get thrown out there. And when you're just getting started, I don't think you need to pay attention to all of them. You can get lost in the lingo and the terminologies, and you might feel like there's a lot of pressure to memorize all of these ratios. Frankly, I think that there's only a few ratios that you need to pay attention to, especially right at the beginning, because it's probably your money that you're investing. So these are probably the biggest things that you care about. So first things first, for me, my I don't even know if this ratio has a term, but I cared about the number of bedrooms that I could find for the amount of money that I had available to spend. And here's what I mean by that. I live in Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. Uh, this market, depending on where you live, could be considered an expensive market. And with that, I realized that it doesn't matter if I live in a 2 bedroom condo or a 5 bedroom house. I can probably rent each bedroom out for about $700 a month. That is an option. And if you look at a 2 bedroom condo, you'll probably spend about maybe $220,000 on that, which means that you're averaging out about $110,000 per room. But if you take a $350,000 house that has 5 bedrooms, you average out about $70,000 per bedroom. And you still get the same rate. So you can save about $40,000 per bedroom just by getting a larger house, but you'll still make the same revenue per room per month. And so if you can reduce your expenses but keep your revenues the same, to me that just made a lot of sense. So I started looking for houses with a high number of bedrooms in proportion to their buying price. So of course, to me, a 4 bedroom house that would be around what would that be? $280,000 would be valued around the same as a 5 bedroom house for $350, because per bedroom is still about $70,000, if that makes sense. And so that's a place that I started just because I live in an expensive market, but also knowing that I wouldn't be able to charge a whole lot more for higher quality rooms. And I definitely did not want to go into the low quality room space because there was a possibility that I would be cohabiting with these people. So for me, yeah, I just figured I would stay in the middle there and figure out how I would reduce my cost per bedroom overall. That was one of the first things that I started looking at. The second thing I started looking at was net income. And so what is net income? It's quite simple. You take your total amount of rent received. You can do this by month or you can do it by year. So you take your total amount of rent received, then you subtract your mortgage amount, the amount that you'll expect to pay for your mortgage, and you can calculate that with any kind of mortgage calculator. Subtract insurance. In Calgary, it can vary anywhere from maybe $120 a month to, I think I've paid as high as $270 a month. 270 is quite high for a house that's around $350,000, which is why I'm now a lot closer to $120 a month. But anyways, yeah, insurance is about $120, and then property tax, that's another, what is that, $200 a month. And so take your total rents received minus your insurance, minus your mortgage, minus your property tax, and that will give you your net income for the month, and multiply that by 12 and you'll get net income for the year. It can be challenging in this market, at least, to cash flow positive, at least anything meaningful. A lot of people break even. This is where the third formula comes in. This is called your equity buildup rate. And so what that is your mortgage principal that is paid down every year divided by your total cash invested in year one. And here's what I mean by that. So let's say you're in a market that doesn't cash flow very easily, kind of like Calgary, where once I collect rent, I am net zero. I'm not making any cash flow every month, but I'm not losing cash flow every month either. I am perfectly break even. Well, then the way that I imagine that is that, if in your mortgage, you're spending about 50% of your mortgage every month on interest and 50% on principal, your tenants are paying that principal down every single month. And that is money that will end up in your account one day. Of course, it's equity in the house right now, but it will end up, this is part of your, becoming part of your net worth every single month. So what you can do is take your entire mortgage amount, that is principal payment every month, estimate it right around 50% of your total mortgage payment to start, and then divide that by your initial cash invested in year one. So on, hypothetically, a $400,000 house, maybe you have a $1,700 mortgage. $1,700 mortgage would be about $850 a month. Yeah, $850 a month, just in equity, roughly speaking. So $850 a month in equity. This is the amount that your tenants are paying down the equity of your house. 850 times 12 is $10,200. $10,200. Now, let's take a look at what the initial cash invested is for a house like that. If you only had to put down a 5% deposit on a $400,000 house, that's $20,000. So in year one, your tenants gave you $10,050 for your $20,000 deposit that you had to put down. Sure, you're leveraged, you had to borrow money for the house, and that's a part of this. However, if you think about it, just by putting down $20,000 deposit for a house, you now have $10,500 of equity. And so that ratio is just a little bit over 0.5, which is actually like a pretty good ratio if you think about it. And it's one of the most encouraging ratios that I think about whenever I think about real estate investing. Now, of course, that's going to change a little bit more if you have to put 20% down because it's not an owner-occupied unit. But typically speaking, it's an interesting ratio when you think about it that way, because you do end up getting all the equity for a house, for an investment that has, $400,000 of value, only by putting your deposit amount down. So typically, those are the three ratios that I pay the most attention to, and I would recommend that people pay attention to just to start. How do I lower the cost per bedroom? And right off the get-go, it's handy. That's a handy number to have, just because when you're walking around and you see a place and you say, hey, that might be in my price range. What's the total cost divided by the total number of bedrooms? Oh, that will tell me where it falls on my list. I know that a house in my neighborhood for around $70,000 per bedroom, that's a pretty good deal. A house for around $80,000 to $90,000 per bedroom, not so great of a deal. Second formula, net income, because you want to know if it's going to cash flow or not based off of market rents and based off of what you estimate your mortgage and insurance to be. And then lastly, that equity buildup rate, because I think that's the one that's going to get you motivated to actually invest and put the down deposit for this house so that you can start your first investment property. So good luck and see you guys in the next video.